So you're the funny little man who's been following me. So Paul King's Wonka, starring Timothée Chalamet and Hugh Grant, has just released its second trailer. And honestly, I am so excited for this film. This film looks so fun and so just heartwarming and optimistic and bubbly and fun. And in many ways, it's kind of a film I need right now. Especially considering the fact that Warner Brothers delayed Dune Part 2 to March of 2024. I need my fix of Chalamet.
This world is beyond cruelty.
And for this trailer reaction, I thought, what the hell, why not just put on my incomplete Wonka costume? It's almost complete. It's about like 80 to 85%. There's like small little details that I need to do. I need to cut open the sleeves a bit so they droop open. I need to get the cardigan underneath, and I'm going to use a blue scarf. I think it's just going to be easier for me to do the blue scarf look, especially considering the fact that his actual scarf in the film, the one that he wears throughout most of the trailer, the pattern on it is so intricate and so detailed, and I have no idea where I'm going to find a fabric like that, so I feel like it'd just be easier to do the blue scarf look. But yeah, I'll tell you what, making this costume was fun. This is actually the second hat I made. I made another one, but it was way too small. And then also, the coat was a, issue in itself. It wasn't actually that difficult to make, the coat. It was more just sourcing it together, and then the sizing, it's not like the best thing ever, but it does the job. Like, it is a little tight across the chest, and it doesn't actually close up because I didn't design it to do that. But also, a little secret, the way I sewed it, it made it a little bit too tight around the waist. But anyways, you'll see the full cosplay soon. I'm going to MTM Comic Con in London at the end of October, and the full thing should be done by then. I also made it for Halloween, and also I want to wear it to when I go see Wonka, just because I think it'll be fun. You know, people would like talk and be like, oh, look at him, he's dressed like Willy Wonka. And I think it'll be fun and wholesome. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the trailer reaction, and we'll do a little bit of discussion throughout the trailer. Oompa loompa doompa da dee.
Gotcha! So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
An Oompa what now?
In Loompa-land, I am regarded as something of a whopper.
I said this in my trailer reaction for the first trailer, but I think Hugh Grant is going to steal the show in this film. Hugh Grant is such a British national treasure, and he's so funny, he's so he's so good. Now, there has been controversy in the casting of Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa, and honestly, I don't really get the controversy. Like, I understand that there are some dwarf actors that are upset that Paul King did not go after dwarf actors, but then again, it feels like Paul King just wanted to make a film with Hugh Grant, and he wanted to cast Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa. Like, if Hugh Grant was bad, then I think that's a different story. But considering the fact that Hugh Grant is hilarious and he's doing exactly what Paul King wants him to do, I don't really see a problem here. I do understand and sympathize for the dwarf actors that could have had an opportunity to play this Oompa Loompa, but then again, I do feel like this role kind of relies on stunt casting to a point. And also, I think this situation is a bit different to, say, the Snow White situation, where they purposefully changed the dwarves into a bunch of multiracial, multi-ethnic, diverse cast for the sake of it. Like, it's no longer Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, it's Snow White and the 7 diverse magical creatures. And I'll get into this a little bit later, but I do think a lot of the criticisms lobbed at Wonka are a bit unfounded, and at the end of the day, people just need to lighten up a bit. Like, at the end of the day, this film is not that deep. It really just seems like it's Paul King wanting to tell this big, fun, epic, bombastic story, and he just happens to be using the Willy Wonka IP.
You see, I'm something of a magician. Prepare to be amazed.
May I present Willy Wonka's wild and wonderful wishy-washy Wonka Walker? Please don't make me say that again.
Okay, so getting on to Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka. Now, I've said before that I think Timothée Chalamet has the potential to be the best Willy Wonka. And I think that is possible, and I also think he's doing a very, very, very good job. I did recently revisit Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and that film is perfect. Gene Wilder is perfect. Everything about his mannerisms, the way he carries himself, the way he's so, excited but also really pessimistic at the same time, he's incredible. Like, the energy he brings to Wonka is fantastic when they're just walking through the corridors and he's like, come, come, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there's so much time and so little to do. Wait. Strike that, reverse it. There's so much genuine warmth and heart, and also there's so much of a pathos in his performance. Gene Wilder is the best Willy Wonka, and I do feel like Timothée Chalamet will be very, very good. And Johnny Depp is his own different thing. I need to revisit that film. I don't actually know how I feel about his Wonka nowadays. But getting on to Chalamet's performance, because I've seen a lot of criticism lobbed at him saying that he can't act, or that he's a one-trick wonder, or that he's just doing his Timothée Chalamet-isms, but also he feels more like an actor that's trying to be quirky rather than just being quirky and zany.
So quiet up and listen down. Nope, scratch that. reverse it.
And I just have to disagree with that criticism completely, because I think he's selling the role perfectly. The big quirky mannerisms of, look at the Wonka, I don't know what he said, but whatever, that kind of thing, that energy was what I was looking for. That's what I was expecting him to do. In fact, it reminds me of the scene in Little Women where Joe brings Laurie into the sisters' little gang, and he walks in and they're doing like this pirate play, and he's like, hello, hello, hello. That kind of energy, that's what I was expecting from Chalamet's Wonka, and that's what this trailer is giving me. I do think the trailer editing for this trailer specifically is a bit wonky. I don't like how they keep splicing together different lines of dialogue where you can tell Timothée Chalamet's intonation is completely different. I remember having a similar problem with the first trailer, but actually, after having watched the first trailer many times, I've actually grown quite fond of it. I actually quite like it a lot, and I do think a lot of the criticisms lobbed at that first trailer are really unfounded. Like the quirky zaniness of him going, I'm making chocolate, of course. How do you like it? Dark, white, nutty, absolutely insane. I love it. It's great.
I'm making chocolate, of course. How do you like it? Dark, white, nutty, absolutely insane.
I love the big epic sweeping shot where the camera goes into the Gallery Gourmet and you hear Chalamet go, ladies and gentlemen of the Gallery Gourmet, my name is Willy Wonka. It works so well in that trailer. It's so big and so epic. And in here, they have the line, but it's like interspliced together and it's a bit weird.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all. My name is Willy Wonka.
But performance-wise, I think Timothée Chalamet is selling the role perfectly. I don't understand the criticism of, oh, he's really putting on this act and he's really trying to be quirky and zany when he isn't. I don't see that.
He's good. Too good.
Okay, so that's something I do have about this trailer. Is Willy trying to make a chocolate factory, or is he trying to make a chocolate shop? Because in the previous trailer, it ended with him going, mark my words, this is going to be the greatest chocolate shop the world has ever seen. But Willy Wonka's known for making a chocolate factory. There is no Wonka chocolate shop. Creative license, that's a nitpick. I don't actually think it's that deep of an issue.
The poor?
He doesn't like it when people say poor.
My guy from Horrible Histories, I actually need to find out his name because he's always been one of my favorite performers as a kid. Watching him in Horrible Histories, he's so good in that show. In many ways, he's my favorite Horrible Histories cast member. Like, I love them all, but he was always like a standout for me. I mean, he was Charles II, he was Dick Turpin, he did the Inca song, like, he's legendary. Mathew Baynton, absolute legend.
Send Wonka a message.
Do not sell chocolate in this town!
I really love Paul King's sense of style and humor. Like, this film seems very wholesome and very playful, but there's also like a little bit of a dark element, but it's like still fun and quirky. It's kind of a wholesomeness that you don't see nowadays, and I'm really glad that we have Paul King making these type of films.
I got an idea.
Where do we start?
Making chocolate, of course.
Was it really that hard to get Timothée Chalamet in to re-record a bunch of ADR for this track? Actually, maybe technically because he's on strike, but even still, the way they just intersplice the making chocolate, of course line, it's so weird. Because in the context we've seen in the trailer, it's supposed to be a big, quirky, zany moment where he's all like, I'm making chocolate, of course. How do you like it? Dark, white, nutty, absolutely insane. And for them to intersplice it into the trailer as a means to make it a big, epic, memorable line for the trailer, it's a bit weird.
Bumpa, lumpa, dumpa diddy. I'm not in premium economy.
Hugh Grant is actually the GOAT. He is gonna be the GOAT of this film. Like, he's so good. Honestly, I am really just looking forward to Wonka now. It's just gonna be so wholesome and fun and light and fluffy. Whilst I love my dark and gritty films, my dark and gritty dramas and thrillers, sometimes it is nice to just have a film that is for the whole family, that is so wholesome and fun, and doesn't feel so fake and cheap and artificial like the Disney films. In many ways, it's a nice throwback to a different time. Like, the Disney films now, they're trying to be modern, but they're also trying to still have family values, and it's so, like, contradictory. But this just looks like a guy that went, I want to make something that's wholesome and fun for, like, everyone, and everyone's going to enjoy it, and it's just going to be big and fun and heartwarming, and I'm really excited for it. I do think a bunch of the controversy surrounding Wonka is just a little bit silly. I've seen so many video essays talking about how Wonka as a franchise, as a property, is problematic, and how the story is outdated, and how Roald Dahl as a creator is racist and also outdated, and just, at the end of the day, I feel like people are just deeping it too much. Now, I'm not denying that there is racist subtext in Roald Dahl's work. Again, historical context is important. It was a different time. I'm not justifying it. I'm just merely pointing out that historical context plays a role in this. But also, I don't think there's anything wrong with Paul King trying to take the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Willy Wonka IP, and trying to make a fun, wholesome story that is a prequel to Willy Wonka, that expands his backstory, and in many ways is kind of original content, but he just happens to be using the Willy Wonka IP. It's no different to Wes Anderson's adaptation of Fantastic Mr. Fox, because Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox is a very good film, but it's also not like a one-to-one adaptation of the story. In many ways, Wes Anderson takes a lot of creative liberties, and the story itself is different. The film's story is about a man trying to relive the glory days, and he's using his son and his nephew to help relive those glory days. He's using the youth as a crutch to relive the glory days. There's this whole rivalry between Mr. Fox and the rat and his wife, and how his wife was once the tart of the town or something. And ultimately, that film is filled with a bunch of things that Wes Anderson put in just for creative license. That whole, like, scatterball, shockball thing. You know, the thing where, like, they throw the pine cone and then they whack it, the whack-a-bat something? Anyways, my point is, if Wes Anderson can take creative liberties with Fantastic Mr. Fox and in many ways turn that thing into his own unique story, why can't Paul King just make a fun, bubbly, light-hearted film that just happens to be starring Willy Wonka? And in regards to the other controversies around this film, like Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa, I think it's perfectly harmless. It's not like Paul King is getting Hugh Grant to make a malicious, stereotypical depiction of dwarves and pointing at dwarves and going, haha, they look stupid, aren't they funny and silly? No, in many ways, Paul King is just making a more truthful adaptation of the book Oompa Loompas. He's using the design of the Gene Wilder film, but in terms of the overall aesthetic and design, they mirror the design of the book counterparts quite accurately. I've seen so many people get up in a tiff about it, and I don't understand it. In many ways, this is just harmless fun. You can normally tell when things like that are done with malicious intent, but when I look at Wonka, I just see fun, wholesome family vibes. I'm honestly really just looking forward to this film. It's gonna be big and fun and wholesome and adventurous, and that's kind of all I want. I'm a fan of Roald Dahl stories. I'm a fan of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'm a fan of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I'm a fan of the books. I just love this franchise. I love this IP. I love what it represents. I love the idea of imagination and teaching kids to think big, but also humbling kids as well, because kids can also be quite nasty.
Snozberries? Who ever heard of a snozberry?
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
It just looks fun and wholesome, and I do think a lot of the controversies surrounding this film are just massively overblown, and people just need to chill out a bit, like loosen up. It's just a fun family kids film. Not everything has to be subjected to controversy or heavy scrutiny, when at the end of the day, this is just trying to be light and fluffy and fun. Look, I need my fix of Chalamet this year. Warner Brothers delayed Dune Part 2 into 2024, and so I don't have anything left apart from Wonka. Honestly, I think he looks great. I think the film looks great. I love Paul King as a director. I think his Paddington films are so lovely and wholesome and fun. And this looks exactly like that, but just with Willy Wonka. Wonka is probably my most anticipated film of the year now. Like, granted, Killers of the Flower Moon and David Fincher's new film and The Bike Riders and such, I'm assuming those are going to be the better films. But in terms of just big blockbuster action spectacle, and in terms of just a fun family film that is just wholesome and really easy and fluffy and light to watch, Wonka is going to be it for me. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Look, don't get me wrong, I love my deep and gritty and philosophical and dark dramas and thrillers, but sometimes you do just want to be entertained and have something light and fluffy. I do think it's a balance that is required. I do think a bunch of audiences have gotten too hyped into the Marvel machine, and that's all they kind of were watching, and then their attention span shrunk, and then they couldn't watch the more deeper and darker and philosophical stuff. You know, the ones that actually have good filmmaking. This isn't a shade at the whole of the MCU, just the recent stuff. But honestly, I think Timothée Chalamet looks great. I think Hugh Grant looks great. I think the whole cast looks great. I'm just really excited to watch this. Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is my favorite of his books. It's my favorite of his stories. I love Willy Wonka. I love Charlie Bucket. Obviously, Charlie isn't in this, but I just love that world. I love the whole Oompa Loompas and Willy Wonka's story, and I'm just excited to see Paul King's take on it, because Paul King, again, is just a fantastic director. I love his tone. I love his style. But those are just my thoughts on Wonka Trailer 2. What do you guys think? Did it win you over? Are you on board with this film? Are you on board with Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka? Again, I don't understand the controversy behind it, but I think he's doing a great job. What do you guys think? Also, what do you think of the Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa situation? Do you think it should have been an actor of a smaller stature playing the role instead of Hugh Grant? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media, all the good stuff. Until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.